Full time at Old Trafford, Man United 4, Chelsea 1. Wasn't quite what happened to Frank Lampard last time because we did score quite late, but another dreadful night really is. Weirdly, not as bad a performance, which it just sounds ludicrous, but we in the context of this season, it's so tragic that there were things tonight that I saw that I just haven't seen for a majority of this season. When actually Chelsea have been beaten less, like the scoreline hasn't been as bad as tonight or as heavy as tonight, but just kind of shows you how just terrible it's been. You know, I felt even with a Man United team with barely anything to play for, I mean, they needed to avoid defeat tonight to confirm Champions League qualification. The only small glimmer of positivity or humour within this night is that we couldn't help Liverpool out and they don't get Champions League football, but they kind of ruined it for themselves last weekend. But, you know, I think that from a Chelsea point of view, my one concern, because Lampard will be gone after Sunday, a lot of players who don't have futures here will be gone. It's more that core of young players, a lot of whom we actually saw tonight start the game. And that was one of the things I liked about the parts of the performance, in particularly the first half, but also the selection for Frank Lampard, which just confuses me and frustrates me a little bit that we didn't see more of this during his caretaker spell this time, where he wasn't leaning on these young players a little bit more. The likes of Carney Chukwuemeka, who hasn't started before tonight a Premier League game since January, quite ridiculous to me. A player who looked a lot better than that, you know, given that he hasn't played a lot of Premier League football in recent months. Lewis Hall, who has been a credit to himself and the academy this year for breaking through. Fofana, Chalobah, Enzo Fernandez, Conor Gallagher, Mikhailo Mudryk, Noni Madueke. A group of players there that I do suspect will be here at the start of pre-season, and players that you suspect can be built around and do have potential and do have years ahead of them to grow. My one concern is from a psychological point of view is recovering from some of these moments, because you know, we look back to the 15-16 season and, you know, flip forward to the 16-17 season when they recovered amazingly well under Antonio Conte with no European football. But that was a better group of players, also an older group of players who had experienced a lot in their career. Some of them had won Champions League titles with Chelsea. A lot of them had recently won the Premier League title with Jose Mourinho. This group obviously does not have that, especially the younger players who are very much at the start of their careers, and some of them have moved countries for big fees. I'm not saying that, you know, these players are brittle and they can't recover from this. I think there is a lot for these players to do in the coming years at Chelsea to recover things. But I just think for Pochettino, that is maybe a hidden part or maybe a forgotten part, is that psychological thing that they're going to have to overcome to rediscover some confidence. And I do think that once again, Lewis Hall, I think, just proves where the value is within this squad, and why, you know, it reflects in some ways when we're talking about Mason Mount, why losing Mason Mount is such a devastating thing for this club, because it shows how valuable Cobham graduates have been over recent years, and why the investment elsewhere has been so tragic. So another lesson there, and good for him that he's had a breakthrough this year. But it was a 4-3-3. It had width to it. We created some good opportunities in the first half. We didn't take them. You know, Kai Havertz, again, very wasteful in front of goal. I thought as a centre-forward just wasn't imposing enough, but I thought our build-up was pretty good, pretty slick. I actually felt in build-up, and until the second half where it kind of collapsed completely, and that isn't surprising because there are very much parallels to what happened for Lampard's Chelsea in August of 2019, his first game in charge of Chelsea, where we lost 4-0. We created a lot of opportunities. Our XG, just looking at it, was over, you know, 1.90. It's kind of that classic thing of us not being able to take our chances, which has to be rectified this summer. But there were good chances for Conor Gallagher. I thought the team responded well after conceding a terrible goal from a set piece to Casemiro. Just abysmal, really, considering that we'd created a good opportunity. And then they kept going, but then to concede another goal right before the end of the half was just crushing. You could see that spirit really die out from this Chelsea team. And the second half, it was always about that transitional game that Man United had, very like what Solskjaer used to do, and very much what I think Ten Hag has leaned on this season to get success. And just really poor from Fofana for the penalty after getting nutmegged. I don't know if it was a sense of frustration or aggression to take down Fernandez like that, who's always going to make the most of it. And then the fourth goal is just, again, Fofana, just a dreadful mistake. And Kepa should be doing better, in my opinion. But the mistake means more on Fofana, and just a comedy of errors. And it just really completely eroded any sort of positivity you could have in the first half, where it looked like more of a competitive game, which is something Chelsea haven't had in recent times and for most of this season, to be honest. I think out of the bleakness of things, you look at what Man United have done this season, and they kind of show Chelsea an image of probably an example of what they probably want to be next season. I think they've got Champions League football. Liverpool's failings and Liverpool's inability to recover that form and recover that difficult start to the season, I think has helped them. But they've got Champions League football. That was the big requirement for Erik ten Hag this season. But I think if you asked a lot of United fans at the start of the year, particularly after their opening 2 games under him where they lost both, you probably would have expected that the best for them would have been top 6 instead of Champions League football. So he's done a really, really good job, and it shows you how quickly things can turn around at football, because things looked broken at Old Trafford 12 months ago. It really did, in terms of the dressing room harmony, in terms of the way it went under Ragnick, and how that squad was going to kind of be reassembled. It shows with good coaching, who I think a good coach in Mauricio Pochettino, how, as we know, things can change very quickly for good or bad in football. I'm not saying that Chelsea are going to do anything incredible next season, because I think that'd be naive, but I also think there is the core of a young group there to build on, along with others. Hopefully some shrewd signings in the summer to maybe make a more competent season for Chelsea, because this has been so far from it. It's just been abysmal. It really has, and there is only so many ways you can talk about disasters. But it says a lot, that to me at least, and I know maybe to others it won't feel like this, because it's a 4-1 defeat. Trust me, there's no way around it. It's a disaster when you're losing games like that. But considering some of the truly abysmal performances Chelsea have had this year, they've lacked so much soul and so much energy. This one wasn't one of those. I've seen worse, more lifeless Chelsea performances, but as has been the case for nearly all of this season, even the small moments of optimism, you get crushed, and they still find ways to make you disappointed, even when your expectations are so low. That has been the only impressive thing about Chelsea this season, is you tell yourself, don't get your hopes up, don't get inspired, because you're going to be crushed in the end. And Chelsea still managed to do it. It wasn't that I thought Chelsea were going to win tonight, but just based on what I was seeing in the first half, it looked like Chelsea may even score a goal. We did in the end, but it was far too late by the time that Joao Felix goal happened. We've nearly done our sentence. As I said, we're nearly there in terms of this punishing, miserable season can finally be put out of its misery. I would like to see a majority of the players that started tonight start again, or at least young players. I'd like to see Fofana, that is, start on Sunday. I think that's just kind of something I personally like to see. There's literally nothing to lose at this point. I do have that fear that if we have a similar result on Sunday, what the mood is going to be like inside Stamford Bridge, particularly with the Mount stuff going on and how fans feel after this season. But that's it. It's been truly, truly historically bad, and just a steep job for Pochettino, a steep job for this club to recover what has been such an abysmal, which is the word I keep on using, take a drink every time I say that in videos currently, period for the club. And it's kind of hard to come up with new words, and that's what's made, I think, making reviews in recent weeks quite hard, because you keep on saying the same things over and over again. It's very difficult to keep on saying something's terrible. And actually tonight, it wasn't the worst performance I've ever seen, but we still got battered 4-1. So that is Chelsea in 2022-23. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. There'll be more content coming up. I keep on saying this. Let's hope Pochettino gets announced, but I've got some other content coming up before the weekend's final game. So follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.